before we can cover running long jump, it'd be smart to first cover standing long jump, all right? We don't have the mat with us today, but Justin, at some clinics we do, I don't know if you guys have seen them, it is a mat where there's, you know, those feet on the mat, and then that makes it 100 times easier to try to, you know, I guess set up the work that you would do. But there's no difference in what you should be teaching your athlete as far as technique goes from standing to running. The only difference is on running, I have to worry about the hardest part, which is the approach. To me, that's the most difficult part to try to get an athlete comfortable doing. For the sake of doing it, so first thing I'll cover standing long jump, all right? I broke this down into 4 coaching points. I tried to break it down, and that's how you should look at it too. There's 4 certain things that I should be able to teach my athlete when it comes to doing standing long jump. The first thing is stance, okay? So my stance, just like with any sport, I want to be in a good athletic stance, okay? If I'm out here, I can't jump very far, all right? If I'm in here, I can't jump very far. Just shoulder width apart in a good stance, all right? So it sounds simple, but sometimes, you know, an athlete will come up and they stand like this, you're not gonna be able to jump out very far, okay? So if my feet are shoulder width apart, my next thing that'll work is your quote unquote pre-flight. So I call it pre-flight because like when you're in the air, I refer to that as your flight. So your pre-flight, the most important thing on standing long jump is I want to be able to, 1, get some knee bend. Okay, down here, I can't do a whole lot from down here. But if I'm standing straight up, I can't do a whole lot either. So it's just a comfortable knee bend, okay? And then I should be able to get a little bit of a rocking motion, okay? And that's usually done with my arms. The easy way, I guess the terminology that I use, is we call that forklifting your arms. So I'll forklift my arms right before, you know, on takeoff, okay? So if I'm in a good stance, I'll start from the beginning. I'm in a good stance. I'll get a good knee bend, okay? Good knee bend, and I can start making my way for a little bit of momentum. But right when I'm going to take off, I should forklift my arms, okay? Third point is your in flight. The most common thing that I see in the events that I've volunteered at, athletes like to do this and put their feet right in the ground. Okay, well, 1, you're limiting how far you're jumping. Sometimes athletes, I feel like, jump really high in the air, but then their feet go straight in the ground. You want to be able to hold your feet in the air as long as you possibly can, all right? So when I'm in flight, once I forklift, I should have a little, if the athlete's, you know, depending on the athlete's ability, I should be able to have a little bit of a knee tuck as well, because that means that my feet are off the ground and I'm holding them in the air. At the very end on standing long jump, so last coaching point, is that I have to stick my feet in the ground. If I land and I do this, they're going to mark you from where my fingertip was, all right? If I land and I land this quick, sometimes they'll say, sorry, we didn't get a mark. So it's important that you emphasize land on, not on the heels, because I'm going to fall back, and I can't land on my toes, because I'm going to fall forward. So you're going to land right in the balls of your feet. All right? So I guess if I did the whole thing, and that, you know, it's what I would be able to do. Shoulder width apart, get some momentum. I did a bad job because I fell back. Once I got to that point, stick the feet, and your athlete should be able to stand up. Then they'll get the mark, and then they'll tell you to exit from the front, or to the back of the pit, or the mat, okay? So I always want to exit out this way. So sometimes if I land, even if the athlete might get antsy, even though they stuck it and then they do this, they might DQ you from the event, okay? Any questions on that? The easy part about it is, all that technique I just taught you about staying long jump, that applies to running long jump, except I have to worry about the approach now, okay? So we can move to running long jump. Running long jump, everything's exactly the same, except now I have to worry about the approach. So, on the approach, the easiest way, I emphasize this in every clinic that I've done so far, the easiest way to get an approach is to not have your athlete, this is the least effective way, to have your athlete stand down there, run down, and then he or she happens to land on the board and you're like, all right, you're good to go. that'll be inconsistent, okay? So the one way that we do it is that if this was the board, and for us it would be 1 meter is the limit. So if your athlete can't jump 1 meter, one, they wouldn't make it into the pit at some places, but then two, that would be a scratch essentially, okay? But let's just say if this was my board, have your athlete, when they get called to the event, there's a time period where they let your athletes do run-throughs, all right? So at that time, if you're a coach assigned to an athlete at long jump, you can mark their steps working backwards away from the pit. So if your athlete is a left leg jumper or a right leg jumper, it changes. Because in long jump, I can't do this and then jump in. It'll be a one-legged jump. You can work your way back away from the pit. So if this was the mark, okay, you can have your athlete take 10, just tell them to run to you. So I would start running. When I got to a point, as a coach, I would mark a certain step, maybe their 10th step. And then at every event, there'll be tennis balls, half of tennis balls, or tape. And you mark your spot right there, okay? That way your athlete, when they start doing run-throughs, can go to that spot and you just emphasize to them, run the same way back that you did to me. And that will help eliminate some of the scratch that you're gonna have. I know it sounds kind of primitive, but that is, even at the college level, people still work their way back. Most jumpers will have an actual mark where you can measure it. So if you have those tools where you have a jumper that always does long jump, one of those meets, if you can, measure the distance to that step. And the next time you go out there, all you'll have to do is get the tape measure out, measure the distance, and mark it again.
They won't let you do this, too.
Oh, they won't let you measure it? Same thing then, at that time you'd have to just do the work your way back. I didn't know that. Thanks for that.
They won't let you on the
Okay, yeah, and that would be the thing too, just be you may be able to get a number as far as we always go with the 10th step, and that would probably be the way to do it there, okay? Any questions on the approach? Like I said, to me on running long jump, the approach is the most difficult to be able to teach, because even if the athlete's this far over, that's a scratch, okay?
Area 15, they let us go out to help the athletes set their mark.
Okay.
For the long jump and for the high jump.
Okay. And maybe that's something, Justin, do you know anything about that?
I don't know about the state level, but I know it goes area by area,
okay,
depending on if the coach lets it set up.
Okay.
You could coach them or anything. But
you're right, you can still get them, still get them marked.
Make sure that they have their mark.
Right, right. And that, like I said, guys, I promise that will help you eliminate scratches if you do that.
Usually that's done during the warm-up time, though.
Right.
I don't know. Like they won't let you go out right at the time.
Yeah, you might not. If you can get out there, maybe before. I don't know though. We'd have to look that up and see as far as what
they got a time limit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So any questions about the approach? To me, that's probably the easiest way to do it. And again, it all depends on the ability of your athlete. When we're talking about the approach, most athletes should not start down at the other white board down there. They'll get super tired by the time they reach their mark to jump. So try to gauge that from them. They probably shouldn't start here, but they should, like I said, start way back there. You want to be at your quote-unquote optimal speed. You want to be going fast enough that I can jump far, but not too fast that I'm way out of control, and then you end up having to, really look down, you're going to end up scratching. In flight, once I'm in flight into the pit, it's the same thing that I chatted with you about with standing long jump. You want to emphasize to your athletes is they want to hold their feet in the air. On long jump, good jump sometimes will actually be the mark of their rear end. Because if I hold my feet in the air long enough, I should almost land like this. Because I've held in my feet in the air so long. So sometimes you'll see it'll come with a little spin out with a butt, with my butt cheek being the mark. All right. But like I said, it's the same things in the air that you would teach for standing long jump. Most important thing though too is, again, exit into the pit, going outward, okay? That doesn't mean that they have to on a pit like this, which is a good sized pit. They don't necessarily have to walk all the way to the back, but if that's a way that you avoid your athlete walking through the pit again, then tell them walk all the way out the back of the pit. Because like I said, you'd hate to get a good jump and then I stick my feet and then your athlete does this and then walks backwards, because they're going to mark it at that furthest point back. Okay? I'm trying to think if any questions?
One good coaching tip on this too is our athletes are so visual. Make sure you do it full speed first before you start breaking it down.
Yeah.
And I know Jake is big on that too. Actually show them what it's supposed to look like and then break it down into the steps. Because a lot of times if you go, okay, put your feet here and now bend down, and then they'll stop instead of having that good rhythm of what they're supposed to be doing.
So like I said, yeah, that's a good point. So when you, like he said, when you're coaching it, remember those coaching points that we've talked about, but your first time showing your athletes, if you're trying to coach them up, just run through and actually make a jump. And that way they can see the full motion of the event. And then you can start breaking it down as you see the ability of your athlete.